Blake Lively, America Ferrara kills it as Carmen, Alexis Bledel, and Amber Tamblyn. It was also the film debut of our friend Blake Lively, which she killed it. Did absolutely wonderful as Bridget.
Killed it. I might have been a little biased, but I thought Bridget's story was the most relatable and probably the most fun.
You thought it was the most relatable?
Yeah.
I was out on Bridget's story. I felt bad for Bridget.
How many times did we go to sporting camps in the summer?
Hi, besties. So much has been going on because Taylor Swift released a new album. I know. It's called Life of a Showgirl. It's been massively successful. It's a highly divisive album because some of the Swifties love it. Some of the Swifties hate it. I was lukewarm on it. I did listen to the whole thing. I'm not a Swiftie, but I have been a enjoyer of Taylor Swift music for a long time. So when I say that, my lukewarm reaction was just like, oh, I feel like I've heard some of these songs before. Feels a little bit boring. But at the same time, it was happy music and nice to hear that Taylor's in love. And amid all of that, there's a song on it called Canceled, which some people think is about Blake Lively. And I really don't know, honestly. This was recorded before she really fell out with Taylor. It was recorded in the summer and spring and summer of 2024. And the last time that Blake and Taylor were seen together was in October of 24 when she and Blake went out to dinner with their husbands. Well, Taylor's future husband, Travis, her fiance. That was before they were engaged. And they went out for dinner, and that's the last time they were photographed. And then there's been this kind of weird distancing since the whole lawsuit and the dragon text messages came out and Taylor got dragged into this lawsuit. And so there's a lot of speculation by fans that Taylor and Blake have somehow made up. And, I'll believe it when I see it. And further fueling that speculation is this podcast that was created by Travis Kelce and his brother on New Heights, going over the film, The Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants, which actually was uploaded in 2024 on October 16th. Around the same time, they saw Blake and Ryan for the last time. So at that time, Blake and Taylor were definitely friends. Okay. And they definitely still loved her. So I don't know why, but basically, New Heights podcast decided that they were going to allow all of their bonus content that they had previously withheld and only allowed paid subscribers to hear. They decided to post it and it's all free now for everyone. And they are uploading the bonus content now to their YouTube channel. And so it appears as though this is a brand new episode. But if you go to the podcast website or you go to like Apple Podcast or Spotify or wherever you listen, you'll notice that this was actually made on October 16th, 2024. And in it, they say they love Blake Lively. So now TMZ is running with the headline that Travis and Jason love Blake, and this is a proof that their friendship is back on with Blake. Also, further driving speculation is that Taylor wore a bracelet that Blake wore at the premiere of It Ends With Us, which, by the way, again, everything in this album that she just made was completed in spring and summer of 24. So she very well could have been wearing Blake's bracelet at the time, or she could have her own. Either way, she was still friends with Blake when she wrote the music and when she was doing all the artwork for it. The kind of content that she's creating here isn't just made overnight. She literally said that this was produced and all of it was done more than a year ago. Okay. And that was when she was still friends with Blake. So much to say about our Blake and Taylor friends. And I don't know. I really don't know. Until I see them together, I don't know. Would I side eye Taylor if after all of this, after Blake making up all of these lies about her and dragging her into this lawsuit and using her as a tool for clout, I think it would be hard to come back from that. Now, the Daily Mail, who is notorious for being a Leslie Sloan mouthpiece, is claiming that they have had some conversations and forgiveness was provided, but this was already shared like months ago. And that while, they're working on building their trust, that's a narrative that we've heard for months. It still doesn't sound like they're going to be besties. And again, until I actually see them together, I don't believe it. But it keeps all of you interested. And I think the most telling is that despite everything, Taylor still doesn't want to take a side in this feud. And I just think if you're someone's ride or die and you like your friends canceled and you support people and you make your own decisions on people because of your experience with them, not what other people tell you, you would support a friend in a situation like this. Why wouldn't she? If it was true, why wouldn't she? She supported Kesha. She herself was a victim and won. If she truly believed Blake, she would support her. And if she was friends with Blake, she would support her. But she doesn't. And she doesn't want to. And that tells me everything I need to know. And if she did engage with Blake, I would definitely side eye Taylor and realize that Taylor just doesn't really have great discernment when it comes to friends. Okay. But in the middle of all of that, while all of this propaganda is floating on the internet, the judge has ruled a couple things that might be interesting to you. First of all, the issues with the motion for judgment on the pleadings and the summary judgment. Basically, he decided to keep his calendar the way it was. He didn't want to make as many changes because he has a specific docket. His clerks are doing specific things and he doesn't want to mess with the docket. And instead of dismissing the judgment on the pleadings, instead he told Blake and Justin, listen, I'm going to look at both of these and I'm going to have Blake can respond to the summary judgment and to the judgment motion for the judgment on the pleading on the same date in November on the 19th. And that's when her responses are due. He denied her extension for time because he said she didn't have grounds for it. But then he said, in order to keep things streamlined, you can respond to both at the same time, and then I will rule on them concurrently, meaning that he will be looking at them at the exact same time. He has two ways to get rid of Blake's case. And he also made kind of a signal that some of the claims might get dismissed because he said, I want to be able to rule on a summary judgment and give you guys time to prepare with what's, left in this case. If he wasn't going to dismiss anything, he wouldn't say stuff like that. So I think everyone knows that there's claims here that are going to get tossed, and he just wants everything so that they can stay on track for their calendar. And civil cases in federal court have lower precedent than criminal cases, okay? And they're less willing to be flexible with civil cases because criminal cases come first. Speedy trial is a whole constitutional right. And so they need to make sure that the criminal cases the judges are assigned to have precedent so that the people that are being criminally prosecuted can go to trial and they're not delayed. And in this case, he doesn't want to mess up his schedule. And so a lot of people think that he's siding with Blake, and I just really didn't see it that way. In fact, I saw it as this is going to be hard for Blake because she's going to have to do and respond to two dispositive motions at the exact same time, knowing that on the one hand, she's going to have to defend the pleadings, and then on the other hand, she's going to have to defend the facts. And those might be contradictory. And ultimately, the judge is going to have two ways to get rid of her claims. That's a lot of pressure. All right. Another blow for Blake is that Blake has tried to hide evidence in this case, okay? And there's a new decision in the courts in federal court, and it's that documents that are sealed are no longer on the public docket. So the documents are not uploaded onto the docket anymore. And I'm assuming this is to ensure that mistakes, like if a document is sealed and then it's not really sealed, ends up getting disseminated, it reduces that. So documents that are sealed are held at the court, and instead a placeholder is made and says like, this is where this document is. But once it's unsealed, it doesn't automatically end up on the docket because of this new change. But in the future, these documents could very well become public because if there's another filing with these documents, they cannot be sealed. And what are the issues and what are the things that she has been trying to hide? Two big pieces that she was fighting to keep completely secret. Blake's declarant that accused Justin Baldoni of verbal abuse and making them uncomfortable is going to become public. Okay. In his order, he says Lively asserts that the declarant's privacy interests outweigh any presumption of public access, and there is no public interest in exposing the declarant to possible online scrutiny and attacks given the substance of the relevant information is already in the record. Wayfarers opposed it, continued sealing on the grounds that the memorandum of law selectively quotes from audio recordings that Sarowitz should be allowed to have the recording made public to ensure accuracy and provide context. And he sided with Wayfair, and he had a whole lot of reasons, and it's all about if you have big documents that are tied to dispositive motions, like she wants sanctions on these. She's asking them to get paid, like, judge, you need to pay me. And the other ones are on a motion judgment on the pleading. You don't just get to keep things sealed if they are tied to big motions, is what he found. He says Lively's underlying motion seeks fees and costs and treble and punitive damages against the Wayfair parties. This is the kind of motion to which a strong presumption of public access applies. And the privacy interest Lively has identified, namely that the declarant's identity is insufficient to overcome that presumption. Although the court is cognizant of the media-driven narrative of this case, he kind of says exactly what I said. The declarant's identity is not the kind of information traditionally considered private rather than public, noting that medical information and information about minors are among the types of information that are considered private. The declarant's identity is also not unverified, and preventing disclosure of Exhibit 1, the audio recording, would limit a fair opportunity for the subject to respond to any accusation contained therein. And she has only quoted portions of the recording. The non-party, moreover, has voluntarily participated in this case by submitting a declaration detailing certain accusations against parties. Therefore, it must be unsealed. And then he also said that Wayfair kind of gave them a branch and said, you don't have to expose the identity of the declarant. And he said, it doesn't matter because the contents of the audio will make clear who the declarant is, and we're just going to put it all out. And so that document is unsealed. And what I think is good about that is it's not allowing Blake to cherry pick and misquote parts of a broader conversation. And if the broader conversation provides context for Sarowitz, it might not seem as bad as Blake has made it appear. And we all know that Blake has a history of making things look really bad that aren't necessarily bad. Like she said, I was a part of this smear campaign and I am not. Okay. He also is going to be unsealing parts of a deposition because nobody else came to the court and asked to remain under seal. Details about Jed Wallace's medical condition will remain sealed. And then here's the other part that I thought was hilarious. Do you remember how I said that Blake wanted to keep her CRD complaint sealed and had filed it under seal? So it says Wayfair's motion on 8/12 seeks sealing of Exhibits 1 and 2 filed in support of the motion for the judgment on the pleadings. Exhibit I-1 is an agreement between Blakely Inc. and It Ends With Us movie and related to the film It Ends With Us, and it contains confidential and sensitive information. Exhibit 2 is a complaint and right to sue letter filed with the California Civil Rights Division. The Wayfair party's letter does not elaborate in any detail why this information is sensitive or must be maintained under seal. It's only that Blake basically filed it confidential. Moreover, given that these documents were filed along with a dispositive motion for judgment on the pleadings, a strong presumption of public access attaches to the materials. The parties are therefore directed to file a letter with the court by October 8th, indicating whether they in fact wish the information to be maintained under sealed, and if so, explaining why such sealing is justified. So Blake and Wayfair have to justify why they want to keep the letter of her CRD complaint under seal, which I think is a really good move. Like, Blake, you've already put this out publicly, and why is this private? That's kind of what he's saying. So Blake's attempt to conceal the identity of the declarant and misconstrue or only quote from a portion of an audio clip is denied. And so we are at some point, I don't know how it'll get released because right now, again, when something is unsealed, you can't get it directly from the docket. you have to go to the court now. So I don't know how this will work, but it will become available soon enough. We will know who this person was that accused Justin Baldoni of verbal abuse and the contents of that audio. My suspicion is that in the full context of what they're talking about, it'll be clear that what was said was not said in a way that Blake says it was said. You know, if I've learned anything about Blake Lively is that she has very skewed, or at least her attorneys have a way of misconstruing information and presenting it to the court most favorable to them, which is what they do. But at times that makes it look like they're lying because once you see the whole context, you're like, wait a minute, that doesn't even said what you that doesn't even mean what you said. It's like when Blake said that I was part of a smear campaign and being paid by Baldoni with no proof. She knew. She was doing too much, you guys. So that's what we have for right now. And I don't really know what's going to happen. And if these documents become unsealed and I can see them, we can talk about it. But Taylor and Blake, I'm still on the fence. I don't know. I really don't think canceled is about her. I think it's about everyone. And lukewarm to Taylor's new album. She's happy for sure in the new album, and she definitely loves Travis. And for that, I'm very happy for her. If she decides to make up with Blake, I will side eye and question if I still like Taylor Swift. And Blake's attempt to hide evidence is denied. So what are your thoughts? Let me know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and make sure to subscribe to my channel if you haven't subscribed and click the bell so you never miss a video. Thanks so much for watching. Bye, besties.